All right, amigas and amigos, my friends, it's Teen Impact Pro. It's Jason Blaha, Strength and Fitness. Yes, we're gonna review a video, man. It's called A viewer said people who train heavy do not look good. Well, I don't know. Depends on the body type, right? Some body types look good. It's mostly skinny people that are trying to lift heavy because they see themselves as weak. Skinny people and little people see themselves as weak and skinny people. So they all got to go to rush to the gym, lift the heavy weights.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm going to respond to something I thought was hilarious. I saw someone write under a video. A guy came through, probably not a regular, and he said, the thing is though, guys who train really heavy just don't look good. That's the truth of it. Like everyone who trains heavy doesn't have an impressive physique, which to me seems really...
Because they're really not doing very specific things. Bodybuilding is more about isolating muscle parts, and you're kind of burning fat at the same time. But some people have low body fat when they come in, and so they just look better when they build muscle because then they start popping in different areas. Yes, but lifting a heavy weight, you're training for androgen receptor strength. Look, I will explain this. If you're bodybuilding, you're lifting because, well, you're looking to build some muscle so they pop out. It's an aesthetic look. It's a cosmetic look most people are looking for. That's in their brain. They're thinking it's cosmetic. The truth is, bodybuilding really is about getting bigger, better, stronger, and faster if you're trying to really build muscle. But the majority of people in the gym, like I've said in my videos, they're building inflammatory muscles and some sarcoplasmic fake muscles because they're really never exceeding this protein breakdown. Protein synthesis needs to exceed that breakdown in order for those muscles to keep growing, and that is very difficult, extremely difficult for majority of people to accomplish, to build that mass on that myofibrillar. Now, if you want to build more myofibrillar growth and mass, well, then you have to cause these injuries to muscle fibers. So that's very uncomfortable for people. So when they do get something called DOMS, they associate DOMS with being something bad. You understand me? And they just disregard it. And so they get an apoptosis instead. They lose muscle fiber anytime they actually get that damage. But that is not their goal, to get that damage. But when they do get it, they associate it with something bad and they just don't feed the beast and they actually lose muscle. So yeah, so two things. They're not really getting mass through this protein synthesis because it needs to exceed that breakdown. They're never eating enough. They're just never exceeding that. And as far as myofibrillar growth, they just run away from pain. You see what I mean? So, like I said, it's uncomfortable, and so people don't like things that are uncomfortable. That's why the industry does not promote you to eat protein synthesis must exceed this breakdown. Nobody tells you that, not even on this channel, that that's how muscle is built. See what I mean? And if you want myofibrillar growth, well, you're going to have to cause injuries to the muscle fibers. You understand? So that they repair, remodel bigger and stronger. Now, what does he promote? Lift a heavy weight. So that is based on androgen receptor training, because everybody knows in NCBI, you could pop this up. People who haven't been on my channel, it's called myocytic androgen receptor, controls the strength but does not control the mass of the limb muscles. Again, what controls the mass? Well, protein synthesis must exceed that breakdown and myofibrillar growth. That controls that mass and these satellite cells and the nuclei, because they synthesize protein to further that domain when it reaches a ceiling limit. All right. So, like I said, every training has its own modality. So again, if you're training just specifically to lift a heavy weight, you are training to get more androgen receptors for the androgen to bind to it to give you more of that force production. See what I mean? So if you're training for that, what are you training for? You are not training for muscle, so you're not going to look that good. Now, I'm not saying that lifting a heavy weight, you couldn't build muscle. You go into the gym and you're lifting heavy weight, you can't build muscles. You can build muscles when protein synthesis exceeds that breakdown. Now, what will you look like? I don't know. I can't tell you. If you're a skinny person and you eat and you move weights around, there's an open window for protein synthesis. You'd probably run home and eat a hell of a lot of protein. But you're not. That's your problem. And you're chasing an inflammatory response. And if you're eating a lot of carbohydrates, you're going to get glycogen loading. That is going to equate to sarcoplasmic artificial muscle gains. Yes. Again, these are artificial muscle gains. So those are, you're not shooting for those, but those appear when you lift these heavy weights. You'll get an inflammatory response and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy if you're eating this stuff. Another thing is bodybuilding people get the same thing too because they're looking for aesthetic, but they're cheap. They'll do anything to build a fake phony muscle. That's why they take creatine, these powders and everything to put water in their muscles. They don't really care. See what I mean? Nobody does because they're looking for a cosmetic look, basically.
Weird because if you go back in history, a lot of the number one ranked bodybuilders in the world at that time lifted really, really, really heavy. And I don't mean heavy like I'm lifting, meaning way heavier. And granted,
They do. Bodybuilders lift extremely heavy. They do high reps heavy. So I don't know what Jason is talking about. They still lift heavy to this day. If you look at Bumstead, he's a classic physiquer. He lifts extremely heavy. And he does high reps, not just for one PR.
I mean, I train mostly for strength sports. I'm not, really a physique guy. It's not my thing. But
He trains for strength sports. He trains to lift something heavy, yes. I don't know what kind of strength sport he's lifting. What kind of strength? Think about this. If you cause damage to muscle fibers and they repair and remodel stronger, you get more structural integrity. Are you not stronger physically? Are you not stronger? Yeah. Okay. So that's a different kind of strength, right? You're shooting for. Okay, so this guy just wants to lift a heavy weight and get androgen receptors for those androgens to bind to it, to lift a heavy weight. Is that a type of strength? Yeah, it's a type of strength. It's a force production strength. But it isn't something you can you can touch or see or feel. Now, myofibular growth, you can actually see it physically because you'll be bigger. See what I mean? If you protein synthesis exceeds that breakdown. And that is a problem. Now you understand. The difficulty in actually getting physically super strong is difficult. So people take shortcuts. They rather fake it than do it real. And in order to build muscle, even if you do take steroids, you need to do it real in the real world. Yes. In nature.
the thing is that guys who really were competing in bodybuilding, that's oftentimes the case. And I'll get over into how strength athletes are doing these days because that's changed too. I'll name three names I promise you everyone's heard from different generations. Reg Park, back 60s or 70s, 60s. Franco Columbo. Okay, Franco Columbo. You all know who he is if you follow him.
Frank Zane, Franco Columbo, and all this. They're all steroid people, man. They're using artificial means. Like even natural bodybuilders, they use artificial means to build muscles. So are they fake natties? Yeah. If you're taking creatine to build the muscle, you're a fake natty. If you're using carbohydrates to build an artificial muscle, sarcoplasmic muscles like these fake steroid people, you are a fake natty. You understand me? If your protein is not exceeding this breakdown, then you are not building real muscles. When you do build real muscles, they don't just go away. Like, hey, my gains are going. I got on vacation. They don't just disappear, bro. Get it?
Anything lifting related. Ronnie Coleman. Now, granted, Ronnie Coleman's an apparition, and people.
Ronnie Coleman took steroids. He doesn't even look like a bodybuilder anymore, and he's on TRT now. He can barely move around. I just saw him lifting with Shaw Strength. They were lifting together in his home gym. Ronnie looks like he's completely diminished.
Oftentimes say, we got to watch the Ronnie Coleman fallacy when it comes to lifting, and I'll agree with that. But
I'm practically Ronnie Coleman's age, and guess what? I'm still lifting, and I'm healthy. I'm not crippled. Yeah, and I actually look like a bodybuilder, and I hardly lift.
The point is, we'll throw that in is
Why is that? Because I have more myofibrillar growth. That's why.
the weakest argument out of the group. Okay? Yes, pardon the pun there. But what did those guys all have in common? They all benched 500 pounds. They all had at least a 700-pound deadlift. Okay, you see where we're going with this? Back Franco Columbu did. Now, granted, a touch and go for the 2 reps. He did a 700-pound for 3-rep deadlift. The guy was a 600-plus pound squatter. He benched like 500 pounds.
He was on steroids, giving you a forced production. Cripes, man, it's fake.
Is someone going to say that who chases the physique thing that they don't think Franco Columbu looked good? I mean, granted, okay, you could say.
You think his body's so destroyed, man, because it overcapacitated his body. His body wasn't strong enough to handle those heavy weights doing those heavy reps, bro. That's why.
Ronnie comments, that's fine. Reg Park. Saw an old video, black and white footage of the guy doing a 500-pound floor press. Right, it was claimed that he had a 700-pound deadlift. He was one of the original Hercules on TV in the movie. He played Hercules in the movie. Guy was jacked, looked great.
Yeah, he was jacked, looked great. More steroid people. This guy loves phony people, man.
But he was strong as hell. Like, so where do people come up with these insane ideas?
He wasn't strong. He took a drug to lift something heavy.
And if you're going to use the modern bodybuilder, you can't use the modern.
So a woman who lifts a car off her kid because she gets a rush of adrenaline, Jason, does that make her strong too? Is she stronger than you because she lifted that car and you couldn't? You can't?
Stuff because it's all drugs today. They use way more drugs than anyone.
Well, he admits it. They use way more drugs today. Yes, they've been using drugs then, now, before, after.
Had in history. So yeah, they get away with some different stuff. Okay. But
a lot of those old school lifts were fake. They used fake weights. They used a bunch of fake stuff. And even in the past, these freak shows, they would come around. Fake weights, fake metal, fake bending bars, whatever.
Even if we factor all that in, all right, whatever. So take modern stuff. Let's take modern stuff. Anyone telling me a lot of the modern strength athletes, powerlifters, things like that, they don't look good? By those classic standards, what are you guys counting as looking good? Because that's a very subjective thing. But I'm going to assume the person's talking.
I think people look relatively good according to their genetics and their body makeup.
From a training perspective, big shoulders, ripped, lean, jacked. Better go through and look at the physiques of a lot of high-level powerlifters.
I have looked at their physiques. They're not so bad. I've looked at your physique as a powerlifter, and Jason, I don't know. I think you're coping, man. Maybe that's why you made this video, because people are telling you don't look good. You lift heavy, or apparently you train heavy, but you don't look good. But you don't look like you train heavy to me, because you're always doing 45-pound bench presses. Yeah, these 2 plates.
These days, who are not in heavy weight classes, right? They're not fat guys. Look at them. You tell me that it's not the case? That they don't have impressive physiques? And then on top of that, it's like, well, if it's purely by training light and all the high rep stuff, well, what about all the West Side guys? They all did tons and tons and tons and tons of ultra high.
I mean, the most that you could bench is like 100 and what? I don't know. 150, 145 pounds or something. Yeah, Jason, I don't know, whatever.
Rep stuff. I mean, if you think of West Side outside of the bands and chains, what do you guys think of them being known for? 50 and 100 rep sets for their triceps and hamstrings and stuff, right? That's the stuff they did, right? That's kind of, when you think of West Side, you think bands, chains, box squats, speed work, maxing every week, and just lots of ultra crazy high rep single joint exercises. That's West Side Barbell. Okay, that is strength training. I mean, there's your
West Side was fake too, man.
world level powerlifters coming out of that gym. But it's just this fascinating idea. Then, even worse, how can you ignore recent internet culture? I mean, even when I came on the scene and was doing the tubes and stuff in 2012, what had just hit and was really big, Martin Burkham with lean gains. This guy had this impressive shredded physique doing short workouts and training just heavy. He was like this minimalist guy talking about, do a heavy setup.
And you're talking about one guy out of the bucket, and the majority of guys you were talking about with nice physiques are people that are bodybuilders. Again, talk about some strength guys, these so-called strength people lifting something heavy.
Bench press and then do a drop set and drop down and do, like an all-out 4-rep heavy set, and then when you get right at failure, drop the weight, do another 5 reps, drop the weight, do another 5 reps, your chest is done.
That's not what develops your physique. You have to have a relatively thin, low body fat, thin physique to pop your muscles to have a nice physique. It's genetic. It's a genetic thing, bro. That's a fat guy coming in heavy lifting, a fat dude. He gonna look good? Or a short dude, fat short dude, or big fat dude. Come on, man. Look, we know there's 3 types of body. There's 3 body types: ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph, right? So think about it: mesomorph and an endomorph. What do they look like? See?
But it was all heavy. Right? And Martin was over here repping over 600 pounds on the deadlift.
Then again, there's these guys. They all think that bulk diets build muscles, and then they just get fat. They have a shit physique after they've destroyed their physique. Yeah, that's great too.
About squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, weighted chin-ups. Maybe do some triceps and calves. Done. I do training 3 days a week, just mostly heavy, focused on, rep strength, on a handful of big exercises.
Again, he's just moving weight to burn fat. He's causing a thermogenic effect. This is meaningless. He's a chronic lifter. So the only thing he's going to get out of this is a thermogenic effect, because weights do not build muscles, bro. They don't build muscles.
And then maybe 1 or 2 small movements. And then focusing on the diet end.
It will build you these inflammatory muscles, what he's doing, because he's chronically lifting. This chronic lifting really is to burn fat. He's trying to he's chasing a physique, like a nice look. So he's burning fat, but he's getting an inflammatory response. He's pumped out. Like all these other guys saying, look, I go to the gym, I lift often, I get pumped, I love the pump. I think I look big, I think I feel big, but meanwhile, they didn't grow any, there's no muscle growth there whatsoever, because a weight does not build muscles. No weights have magic powers to build muscles.
People fasting, doing ultra crazy high protein. But it did work, right?
Yeah, ultra high protein, that's what builds muscles. Yeah, Jason.
He was advocating training heavy, but you see the point where we're going here. It's an insane idea. I personally think if you're trying to get as jacked as possible.
Man, this guy, if he's trying to look like a 75-year-old man, he's really accomplishing his goal. He's got man boobs because he has high estrogen. I told you, this lifting, chronic lifting, also crashes your testosterone, and it doesn't return to baseline because it's chronic lifting. So it doesn't return, it crashes it. So you have low testosterone, and then you have high estrogen because the food he's eating causes that, and these more man boobs there, you can see them, they're hanging. Yeah.
Possible on the least amount of stuff, meaning that could be obviously natural too. Natural would be the least amount of stuff, but if people were going to keep
natural means least amount of stuff. No, natural means that you built your muscles in the natural world. Protein synthesis must exceed that breakdown. You didn't build it artificially with fake herbivore diet, a cow's diet, eating grass, getting carbohydrates in the muscles. You understand me? building sarcoplasmic muscle, or inflammatory response muscles, or creatine drawing water into the muscle, or using SARMs or steroids to draw more glycogen and water into the muscle, creating fake muscles. That is considered a fake natty. See what I mean? But people have it all confused. They just think a guy who took steroids is a fake natty. No, you're all fake natties if you're building fake muscles. You're all fake natties.
As minimal as possible. I think you should train multiple rep ranges.
I'd say that 90% of people out there are fake natties. I'm not joking. They're not really building muscle because I told you, it is extremely hard to bypass the nuclear domain size limit and this damage part and exceeding this breakdown in protein. It is extremely difficult. The bar is very high and people run away from things that make them uncomfortable. They're always like, oh my God, I have to eat that much protein. They just won't do it. They'll eat carbs though like crazy. Why? Because it's a drug. Carbohydrates is sugar. They love drugs. So you'll be willing to eat a shitload of drugs and create fake muscles eating these drugs called sugar, called carbohydrates. Yeah, that's easy.
If you're trying to gain muscle, I think it would.
Why do you think these products fly off the shelf when they tell you it builds a muscle? It's going to build you a muscle. What kind of muscle? A fake muscle.
Behoove you to do some heavy weight, some lighter weight, maybe even some stubborn body parts, some really, really, really high reps. I think that that's perfectly reasonable. But for someone to stand there and say that people...
Yeah, no high reps are going to build you a muscle, but they will cause a thermogenic effect. And possibly if you're eating these carbohydrates, it'll draw the carbs into the muscle.
People who train heavy didn't develop impressive physiques has ignored all of history. Like PEDs in the mix, no, there's an enormous correlation there, guys. The research shows there's an enormous correlation there. So
what research? His phony research? Look at his man boobs. Look how they stick out. Wow.
It's a ludicrous statement.
This guy is high estrogen and very low testosterone.
What I think would be ludicrous is for anyone to say, you only ever need one rep range to get a jacked muscle. No, I think realistically you should train several. I think at the minimum, if you're trying to gain as much muscle as you can, you should do some really heavy work.
Yes, get as much phony muscle as you can. Do some real heavy work because heavy will build a muscle.
And some pump work. I think you should do a little bit of both. A lot of experts, researchers, and
don't eat protein to build muscle. A high nutrient protein animal diet to grow muscle. Lift a heavy weight. Man, I'll see you in the next video. Tell me what you think about that. Like, subscribe, support the channel. Yes, yes, yes. Train heavy to build a muscle. People who train heavy do not look good. Okay, whatever. It's all relative, bro.